People who are perpetual victims can't accept the nature of the world. So instead, they rail about social justice and privilege and oppression and misogyny. And they assume that they are the people who should be able to dictate human behavior. And they are the people who should be able to change human behavior. They think the world is not as it should be. In reality, these people are angry at God. Whether you believe in God or not, they're angry at the way that the world has been created. They preach equality as if nature or God, whatever you want to call it, made anyone or anything equal. And they think they can change the world because they refuse to study the history of the world. And history is written by the victor. The most powerful, the strongest army, the toughest people, the most cunning, the most intelligent. These are the people who built our world. These are the people who wrote the history books. These are the people who got the things that they wanted. Victims don't get anything except abuse. In better days, being a victor was something to be admired. Men were taught to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Self-made men were lionized, and hard work, persistence, and self-reliance defined the noble man. These noble men came together and built a victor nation, the likes of which the world had never seen before. Within just a few generations, America became the most prosperous nation in the history of the world, and for over 100 years, men lived better and more free than ever before. But since then, times have changed. Since then, America has been hijacked by this fanatical cult of progressive collectivists. These social justice warriors who want to handicap the strong and glorify the weak. And victimhood has become elevated to the highest moral plane of the new American religion, which is the oppression Olympics. The very men who built the country that allowed for the freedom of expression and the freedom of the SJW viewpoints to even exist have been deemed oppressive and beyond redemption. The end result is a nation of lazy, whiny, entitled, weak-minded pussies. And America's been brought to its knees by these people and their victim mentality. I don't know about you guys, but I refuse to be a victim. And I refuse despite meeting a lot of the criteria. As a kid, I grew up poor. I grew up without a father. I grew up watching my mom struggle to make ends meet. I didn't know my grandparents because they disowned me for being born out of wedlock. I've had a tough time in a lot of parts of my life, and I could whine about how unfair it is and blah, 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 blah. But whining is what victims do, not men. And I refuse to be a victim because I refuse to let circumstances define me. Instead, I define myself by what I've achieved in life and by my character as a man. And I've taken a negative, and like all negatives on my life, I've done my very best to turn it into a positive. So growing up fatherless could have made me the kind of person who blames the world around me. But instead, I chose to become stronger. And the end result is that I became mentally tougher than most guys. I learned early to rely on myself and solve my own problems. And now I get paid to solve problems for other men, to teach other men how to be victors. And that makes me happy every single day of the year.